Hi, I'm Ross O'Brien with the Economist Corporate Network here in Hong Kong. We've just wrapped up the new Asian consumer, our look at retail markets across the Asia Pacific, and with all things retail, a very large component of our conversation was centered on the emerging and growing Chinese consumers. I'm joined by Andrea Bernardi, who's the Managing Director of La Perla here in Asia, Nick Denman, who is the Asia Pacific Consumer Markets Head for KPMG, Michael O'Donnell, who's the International Business Director for Speedo here in Asia. Gentlemen, thanks for your time this morning. Andrea, if I could start with you, one of the things that came up in our meeting just now was a notion of the sophistication of the Chinese luxury consumer and just how rapidly that sophistication is setting in within your markets. Well, give me a timeline. How quickly has this transformation occurred?
Well, this transformation has occurred very fast. I would say that we could see the first signs about a couple of years ago, and this has accelerated last year in conjunction maybe with a change of government and with the economic crisis of 2008-2009, which has certainly changed also the way consumers in China buy and see luxury. The Chinese consumer in a way can be compared to the Japanese consumer that over the last 30 years have gone from a status symbol oriented, show-off-oriented luxury consumption to a very self-indulging, self-pampering lifestyle luxury purchase. Certainly this has an impact for us as a luxury brand and for the luxury industry as a whole in terms of retail development. The retail development has so far been very fast in China. I think that in the next few years will slow down, or in any case will change in terms of quality, in terms of distribution of luxury products in the Chinese market.
So this slowdown is not a sort of darkly forecasted fall off in the market, you just see it entering a new phase of maturation.
I would say so. I'm convinced about that. For sure, the luxury market in China will not decline substantially. I mean, will not decline in the future, will only grow. Will grow in a different way to cater to a new, more sophisticated consumer who has different needs and expectations.
Right. And Nick, one of the more important things that came out of your recent research was the fact that one of the things that the Chinese consumer is doing is traveling abroad to make these purchases, and that's beginning to impact brands and value propositions globally.
Yeah, the Chinese consumer now accounts for a huge section. They're the biggest traveling spenders on luxury. And we used to talk about the China market, entering the China market, and now it's not the China market, it's the Chinese, because and anecdotally, one of our clients told us that for every dollar they get from a customer in China, they get $2 outside China. Now, he was in the cosmetics industry, which is quite skewed. Cosmetics is the #1 thing to buy when you go outside of China. But I think it goes across the whole industry. You have to worry now about your brand positioning inside and outside China. If you've got either side wrong, your brand's in trouble with these consumers.
Right. And is this, obviously your research is focused on China, but do you see analogs to the way Asian consumers respond to luxury brands and propositions in other markets in Asia Pacific?
Well, I think other markets are at different phases of development. And there are some people who are obviously way more advanced, like the Japanese, and there are some people who are behind the Chinese market. The thing about China is the sheer volume. There are so many emerging middle class.
Right.
And another misconception that many people have is that the very wealthy people are driving the market. It's actually the middle class who are spending the most money.
Right.
And having the entry level product that these guys can get into will set your brand up.
Right.
So to your point about Asia, I think China isn't that different from the rest of Asia. It's just the volume that is making it such a big, attractive market.
Right. Now, Michael, to address that volume, obviously, channel management strategies have to be pretty robust, and you've been finding that one route to market is the Chinese market, in addition to increasing point of sale presence throughout China, is also to complement that with a pretty robust digital and social media angle. What is so unique about the way you guys connect with your consumers in China digitally compared to elsewhere in Asia or the world at large?
Yeah, I think it's obviously we're not a luxury brand. We're addressing that emerged middle class of consumers in China and indeed across the rest of Asia Pacific. And what's uniquely different when we think specifically about our Chinese consumer group versus, say, the traditional markets in Europe,
Right.
is where we have social media engagement, which we have in Europe and in China with those consumers. We have a much higher propensity for the Chinese consumers to engage with the brand. So we find that evidenced through some of the social media campaigns, the amount of stories uploaded or likes or engagement with the brand. And so what that means for us is that as we address these fast growth markets, we don't really like to talk about them as being emerging anymore. They're just our fast growth markets.
Right.
When we think about the media mix and indeed the channel mix, online,
Yeah.
social media, e-commerce, and the way to engage with those consumers in the fast growth markets, and let's think about China as being a muse, that is proving to inform the way we shape our digital strategy globally.
Okay.
So we're thinking very much about those fast growth markets first, rather than retrofitting a European strategy into an Asian context.
So the notion of China as a muse market, to use your phrase, is not just to enhance your strategy across Asia. It really is how you're addressing consumers globally.
That's right. So it's a muse market, or let me rephrase that a little bit. It has always been a muse market, or in recent years, in the last 5 years, it's been very much a muse market for defining product propositions,
Okay.
so product and marketing propositions. But now we're thinking first about how we work with the online ecosystem within China, which is the structure of that ecosystem is different. The partners that one works with is different to the partners that one would work with in Europe, but also the level of engagement and the sheer number of consumers as a percentage that are engaging with the brand online is quite staggering.
Excellent. Michael, Nick, Andrea, thank you very much for your time this morning, and thanks for your observations. I'm Ross O'Brien, and you've been watching our wrap-up of the New Asian Consumer, our retail breakfast meeting here at the Economist Corporate Network in Hong Kong. Thanks for watching.